I read 16 books in the month of August. Let's get into it. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing our August reading wrap up, and let me tell you, this is going to be a big one. I have read 16 books in the month of August. 16 books. Let that sink in for a second. I don't even know how that happened. I did do my 24-hour readathon, which may have just increased it a whole lot. So if you wanted to watch that video, you can go back and look. It's the latest video on my channel. Go and have a look. I am going to talk about heaps of books today. So sit down, get comfy, get yourself a drink. This is going to be a long one. But I'm going to go through every single book that I read in the month of August. We're going to talk about the tropes, what they're about, my thoughts, and what I rated them, okay? So sit down, let's get through this. Let's go. Let's just start, okay? I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I've changed this month. So I started using a new book recording app called Fable. This is not sponsored or anything. I just wanted to tell you guys my experience, and I was trying something new. So the one thing that I love about Fable is that I was able to import all of my Goodreads data onto Fable, which is so exciting. I'm gonna link my Fable account below so that you guys can add me. The one really important thing for me on this one was that you can do half stars. You can do half stars for your books, which I honestly am in love with. I am a frequent person that will rate a book either 3.5, 2.5, 4.5, because I'm just not sure that it's a 3 and I'm not sure it's not 4. So I honestly really love that aspect of this app, and I'm going to keep using it. I'm going to continue on with it. So you guys will see that this month I rated more books, 3.5, 4.5, everything like that. And you'll be able to like really gauge my rating for that one. And I do like it because I can look back and I'll be like, oh, okay, so that wasn't exactly a 4, but it also wasn't a 3. So I'm really loving it. Also updating my Goodreads as I go, guys, so you can see everywhere what I'm reading and what I rate it. Alrighty, so I've got my phone here. I've got all my information about every single book that I read this month, so let's just get into it. So the first book that I read was The Play by Elle Kennedy. This is book 3 in the Briar U series. It is a hockey college romance. We have Forced Proximity and we have Friends to Lovers. Okay, so this one follows Hunter. Hunter has put himself on a hiatus from girls. He is the captain of the Briar U hockey team and he can't let his playboy ways ruin his season. Hunter ends up befriending his psych class partner, Demi. While Hunter is extremely attracted to Demi, he finds it easy to hang out with her because she has a boyfriend, and that means she is off limits. These two end up building the most easy friendship until Demi's relationship status changes. Okay, I honestly really loved this book. I rated it 4 stars. I loved the dynamic between Hunter and Demi. I think that their strong friendship building at the start was what made me really love these two. I so loved the way that Elle made them friends, and she made them really, really close friends. And you just saw their relationship building and the changes, the character development, the will they, won't they. It was so strong in this, and I just loved the way that she built these characters. Demi going through such a hard time and Hunter being there for her, but not being there in the sense of he just wants to, you know, swoop her away. He was there for her as a friend, and I really loved this. I loved the dynamic. I couldn't get enough. I felt like I was just binging this book, and it was so easy to read. And if you guys have read the Briar U series, you will know a little bit about these characters, but I also love the little like tidbits you get from every character, whether it's from the off-campus series or the earlier books in the Briar U series. And I honestly just really loved this, and I was really waiting for Hunter's book because it was sort of teed up in the first couple of books and you were just like, what is going to happen? What is happening here? But I absolutely loved these two, and I did feel such a strong connection to both of these characters, and I think that's why I rated it 4 stars. Looking back on it, I feel like it was a slow burn, right? Like obviously it's a slow burn because they are friends first, they build their friendship relationship, and it just didn't give me 5-star feels. That's the only reason why I didn't rate it 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was On the Shore by Laura Pavlov. Now, you guys are going to see I read a lot of Laura Pavlov books this month. So you're going to hear her a lot. You're going to hear these books a lot. So this is book 3 in the Cottonwood Cove series. It is a small town romance, sports romance, enemies to lovers, and forced proximity. Okay? So he's the GOAT of NFL, and she is the hot-headed reporter who despises him. Brinkley has recently lost her job for overstepping boundaries with Lincoln, the GOAT of NFL. Lincoln is taking a break and decided to stay in Cottonwood Cove for the summer for a bit of privacy. It's until he runs into Cottonwood Cove's sweetheart, Brinkley. He cannot stand her, and well, she blames him for losing her job. They come to an arrangement, and Lincoln lets her write an article on him to make up for getting her fired. What could go wrong, right? Spending every day with the man you despise in order to get the biggest break in your career. Oh my God. Oh my God. This book, there are no ways to explain Laura Pavlov's writing except amazing. She writes some of the best small town romances that I have ever read. She will be one of my favorite all-time small town romance authors, and I will never let that go. I gave this book 4 stars, and I couldn't get enough. I was loving every minute of it. These two, the banter, the pure banter between them was immeasurable. I can't. I loved the sports romance aspect of this because it wasn't shoved down your throat, and I feel like it was because he was on a break and he wanted his privacy, and you see a lot of fun aspects from the two of them and their relationship changing, growing. You see the trust build in between the two of them as you continue on with this book, and I couldn't get enough. I didn't rate it 5 stars. I know, I'm sorry. I didn't rate it 5 stars. I felt like there could have been so much more in this book. I wanted more from them, and I did love the little aspect that you got to meet one of the characters in her newest series, the Magnolia Falls series, which I'm going to talk to you about soon, okay? Because I read some of those books this month too. But I really loved these two, and I can't get enough. I love the found family aspect. I love her family, and in all of these books in the Cottonwood Cove series, you have this family group chat that is just amazing, and I just couldn't get enough of it. The next book that I read was Beyond the Roses by Monica James. Now, this is a book that I have seen on Book Talk so often, and I see people talking about how emotionally damaging it is. So that is the only trope I think I could find in here. Emotional damage, and friends to lovers, I guess, too. This book is so different to anything that I've ever read before, and I do suggest you guys check the trigger warnings before you jump into this because it is an emotional damage book. So this one I didn't really want to spoil for you guys too much because I went into it blind, but I'm going to tell you what's on the back of the book. So I wrote a little bit so that nothing is really spoiled. So we have, to the outside world, Lola's life is perfect. The only catch is she's dying. When the doctors tell her there's no hope in recovery, she decides to spend the rest of her time left volunteering at Strawberry Fields, a summer camp for terminally ill children. All she wants is to make a difference. This is until she meets Dr. Roman Archibald. Roman challenges her in ways she never knew possible, but things aren't always the way that they seem. So I don't want to harp on about the plot twist in this too much because obviously you guys are just going to have to read it and devour it yourself. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. So the reason it wasn't a 5-star book was because I felt like it dragged on a little bit at the start. I felt like I was kind of like, okay, where are we going? Where are we, and at that point it was a 3-star for me. But the plot twist and everything that happened after that changed everything. I was sobbing uncontrollably. This book was just one of those books that you really need to just read. You need to read it. You need to be a part of it. But I don't suggest this book unless you read the trigger warnings, okay? Because I am realistic in that, this book can trigger a lot of people. So you need to be understanding of that when you go into it. And I just think that this is such an emotionally driven book, and it is just so emotional. That's literally the only way to explain it. And I couldn't get enough. By the end of it, my heart just hurt for them. My heart was just so sore, and I just felt all of the emotions, and it was just something that I will never relive again. This book is so different. It is so raw. It is so real. It is so emotional. And it's one of those books where not everything goes to plan and not everything is the way you think it is. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautifully written as well. So I do love this one, and I will think about it for many days to come. The next book that I have is Playing Hard to Get by Monica Murphy. Now, I've had this book on my bookshelf for such a long time and there's never been any pull to read it. I haven't read any of Monica Murphy's books, but when I picked this up, it was like, okay, I'm reading my physical TBR. I'm gonna pick this one up, and it's a sports romance. It's exactly what I needed after that emotional damage beforehand. And oh my God, guys, I fucking loved this book. I did, I loved it. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This is where my half stars come in, okay? I could not get enough of it. You guys know I love sports romance, and this is just like the perfect sports romance. So we have football romance, opposites attract, and tutor and student. So it's a college romance as well. And you guys know I love the dynamic of a college romance. Like we love this, okay? So we've got Knox Maguire. He's the king of the college campus. He's the star of the football team, and he's the opposite to Joanna in every single way. Joanna is the shy, quiet nerd, fresh out of a breakup, and when she becomes Knox's English tutor, she tells herself that this is going to be purely platonic, okay? It's platonic. But Knox is impossible to resist. Next thing she knows, they're getting hot and heavy in the library and they realize they cannot stop thinking about each other. That library scene will be in my mind. It's burned into my mind for the rest of my life. Like that scene, oh, you just need to read it. Like I just need you guys to just read this scene so that you know what I'm talking about. But I just couldn't get enough of this. I just had those feel-good feelings and I was so connected to this whole story and I just didn't want it to end. Like when it came to the epilogue, I was like, no, I want more. Like I want more of these two. I need it. Like I need them. And I just had the best time. Like I just had the best freaking time. And I know that that some people don't agree with rating books on like the time that they had, but I was just giggling. I was kicking my feet. I was like fanning myself. I was like, this is getting too hot. And I just had the best time. I loved the character development from these two and I loved the internal monologue dialogue from both of them, and their connection was so pure and so cute and so spicy, and it was just the best opposite attracts book I think I've read in a really long time. So I really loved it and I just ate it up. I think I read it in like 24 hours because I just couldn't get enough of them, and I feel like football romance is so underrated. Like I feel like it's so underrated. Everyone loves a hockey romance, but we don't talk about football romances enough because my oh my, was it good. The next book that we have is Crossroads by Devney Perry. Now this is a recent addition to my bookshelves because it only came out recently. It is a small town second chance romance. It's enemies to lovers. It's always been you, workplace, boss, employee. All of our favorite tropes, right? All of our favorite tropes. We've also got childhood friends to lovers as well in here. So this one follows India and West. India met West when she was 8 years old. Her family would go to his family ranch every summer and they would make paper airplanes together, and he would teach her how to play poker. She has loved him since she was 8 years old. She was 23 when life ripped them apart and she couldn't spend her summers with him anymore. Fast forward years later, she returns to his family ranch, but now she's the owner. West's father has sold his family ranch to her behind his back and he is furious. Like he's livid. They end up working side by side, much to West's dismay. Will they be able to save their friendship and start new, or will this betrayal be the end of their long-standing friendship? And will they finally admit their feelings for each other? Now, when I was going back to look at what my favorite book of this whole month was, it was really, really hard. And I think that this one is in the contender for it. I honestly cannot pick a favorite book this month. It is too hard. But I rated this one 5 stars. And honestly, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I love Devney Perry, but this book is so short. It's so short. And it's in her new series. The new series is the Haven River Ranch series. And I was not expecting to fall for these characters the way that I did. So we have the present and the past timeline jumps. So we go back to when they were children and now back into the present time. And usually I'm not a fan of that. Usually I get confused or I feel like I want more of the present over the past. but this was perfect. This was done so perfectly, and there is a moment in this book that I will continue to think about for years to come, okay? The way that they confess everything, I will remember it, okay? The character development and seeing what they were like when they were kids and what they're like now, and just the time jump, it was so perfect, and I cannot fault this book. I cannot fault it. It was feel good, sweet, cute, spicy. It was everything that you want in a small town romance and more, and I loved it. I loved it so much, and Debney did such a good job, and I cannot wait for the rest of this series. I cannot wait. If you guys are after a good palette cleanser, I feel like this is the book for you. It is quite short and very easy to binge, very easy to read. The writing is so easy to read, and we love Debney Perry and we love her books, and I can't fault it. I can't at all. I loved them, and I love this book, and I love Debney. Alrighty, the next book that I read was Forbidden King by Laura Pavlov. This is book 3 in the Magnolia Falls series. This is her new series that is releasing. She is pumping these books out like no tomorrow. Like, I feel like every week there's a new release. Okay, maybe not every week, but you know, like they are very close to each other. And I'm like, how are you writing such amazing books so quickly? We have Small Town, Brother's Best Friend, It's Always Been You, Forbidden, and Childhood Friends to Lovers. Okay, so I wrote this line down because I just feel like it was so important for me to tell you guys. She's the one girl I can't have and the only one I want. Okay, all right. I'm setting the scene for you. This is me setting the scene. Sailor is King's best friend's sister. She is entirely off limits. They have a history, a strong connection. When Sailor was young and her family was falling apart, she went to live with King and his family, and he has always been her protector, her safe place. Sailor moves away for college and King keeps his distance, afraid of ruining his friendship with her brother, until she returns home and she is everywhere. She's everywhere. He turns around and there she is. She's there. King does everything in his power to stay away, but his feelings are too strong. I gave this book 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars. So Sailor returns home and she actually ends up opening her own bookstore, right? And King would do anything for her. He would move mountains for her. He would do whatever he can. So he ends up helping her build her dream bookstore, and I love the dynamic between these two. Again, there is one scene that it's not necessarily a memorable scene. Like if you read it or someone else read it, they probably wouldn't think anything of it. But I read this scene and I was crying tears of happiness. Like I was crying because I was so happy for them, and he was so cute and he treats her so fucking well. Like, this book shows you if he could, he would, and King does it. They hold a special place in this series for me. I feel like they are so real and raw, and you feel a lot of the emotions that Sailor goes through. She has a very tricky family dynamic, okay? So I will tell you guys that before you get into it. It's very tricky. There is a lot of different triggering things that are in here. I don't want to like say them because I don't want to get in trouble. But I really loved the side plot of that, and I loved the background plot that entails, and how it created her as a person, and how King actually helped form her into the woman that she is because of how he treated her when they were younger. And he has always loved her, and she has always loved him too, but they've never done anything because of Sailor's brother, Hayes. Connected standalone series of these are just amazing. You see all of the characters from the past in the other books, and you see them happy and you see them living their best life. And I love that part of Laura's writing as well, because you feel like you're invested in this whole friendship group and this whole family, and it's just so beautiful and it's just so well done. Now, on to my favorite book of this series. I know, I've said this about all of the books in this series, but it is the next book in the Magnolia Falls series, and that is Beating Heart. So this is the special edition cover. I'm still waiting for my people cover to come. That's why it looks different to all of the other ones. But this is the 4th installment in this series, and it is, I think there are 5 books in the series, if I'm correct, I think. So this one is a small town, neighbors, forced proximity, enemies to lovers, single dad, and found family. I know, it's all of the best tropes just wrapped into one little book. So we have Emerson. Emerson is taking a break from her busy life and running away from her ex-fiance and decides to land in the small town of Magnolia Falls. She has taken a job as the local pediatrician and is rebuilding her life. Nash is the protective, grumpy dad who refuses to let a new doctor take care of his son. Now his son's new pediatrician is moving in next door and he cannot get away from her. Emerson has to prove herself to Nash, and Nash finds it impossible to resist his new neighbor. Now, if you've read this series, you will know that Nash's son, we call him Beefcake, okay? You guys know that we love him. We love him and we love Nash, and I have been waiting for this story since the first book, okay? It is the classic single dad, the kid falls first, and so these two are so different. They are so different, and then it's opposites attract, right? They really cannot stand each other, but she would do anything for Nash's son, and she would do anything because that's who she is. She's a great pediatrician, but she's just stopping in, it's a stop by. She's going home soon, right? She just needs somewhere to lay low and to rebuild herself and rebuild her life. She's just had this massive change, and it's just something that she needs to do. And then they get it on. They get it on. And Beefcake is just the sweetest character, and Beefcake and Nash together, like hot single dad, okay? You're thinking hot single dad, like very hot small town single dad, and his kid is the cutest kid in the entire world, and he is in love with her. He is in love with his pediatrician because that is just how it happens, right? The kids fall first. And I just love the dynamic of him putting everything aside to make her happy and helping her and pushing her to pursue her dreams. And I really want you guys to read this series. I'm just in love with it. And I think that this is now my favorite book in the series. And then Loving Romeo is the second favorite, and that's the first book in the series. But I absolutely loved this book so much, and I actually read it as an arc as well, which was even better. But it's out now for you guys. So I think if you're looking for a small town romance series that just gives you those feel good moments, that you fall in love with those characters and you just want the best for them, then you need to read this series. Like, it is one of her best series that I've read, underneath Cottonwood Cove, obviously, because that series will hold one of the most special places in my heart. So yes, that is Beating Heart, and just read it, okay? I love her books in this series because the title means something to the book itself, and you obviously have to find out by reading it. Okay, just read it, please. Just do it for me, because I will be so happy and we can talk about them together. The next book that we have is Vacation Wars by Megan Quinn. Now, this is the perfect summer read, okay? Now that it's getting hotter in Australia, I feel like this is the perfect summer read if any of you girlies are looking for a cute summer vacay book. So this one, it's a vacation fling, friends to lovers, unrequited love, and it is a rom-com. It gives Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants vibes, if you know what I mean. So Tessa is thrilled to spend the weeks before her sister's wedding at their family's favorite vacation spot in Santorini. But Tessa's idea of a girls' trip comes to a screaming halt when her sister decides it's time for Tessa to fall in love. Tessa forgot about the contract her and her closest friends made when they were teenagers, and she is determined to put a stop to this plan. As she dodges suitors and her sister's pranks, she finds an ally, Miles. Miles is her childhood crush, who just happens to be the hotel owner's son. As they navigate their way through Tessa's family antics, they begin to realize that old feelings are beginning to resurface. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I know. I just didn't feel that connection to the characters. I loved the idea of it and the concept of the book itself. I just feel like it wasn't executed as amazingly as it could have been. And I felt myself getting a little bit bored towards like the center of it and towards the end of it. And it was obviously very predictable because it is a romance book, but I felt like it was too predictable. Do you know what I mean? And this book is very long. Like, I feel like this book, if you cut maybe 100 pages out, it would have been such a better romance book. But It just wasn't amazing, and I do recommend it still. I think you guys would love it. It is a cute vacation read, and Megan Quinn is usually the queen of spice, but I feel like the spice just didn't hit in this one as much as all of her other books. Officially halfway through. Or halfway through. You guys are doing so well. I'm so proud of you guys. And I've just realized that I have all of these books physically. So I did all of these and I had them on my physical TBR. So claps for me, because that's been my one goal, is to really just get down my physical TBR, because you guys would have seen my video where I have over 200 books on my physical TBR. So I'm pretty happy with myself. Alrighty, the next book that we have is Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez so much, and every single one of her books I just devour and I love them. These books are so much more than surface level romance books, and I just absolutely love her for that. And I love how she does it, and it's not too dark and twisty, like you feel like it's all very like super depressing. I feel like she does it in such a light and fluffy way that the readers can really feel connected to the books and the characters and everything like that. So we have a friends to lovers, foster mum, rom-com, forced proximity, and it's a little bit emotional. Like, I was tearing up towards the end and I was really rooting for these characters. So I am putting emotional in there. It's not emotional damage, but it is emotional in some aspects. So I gave this book 4 stars, and it follows Vanessa Price. So Vanessa quit her job to pursue her dream of traveling the globe. However, that comes to a screeching halt when she becomes a foster mum to her sister's new baby. The last person Vanessa expects to show up at her door to help is the hot lawyer living next door, Adrian. Adrian helps Vanessa navigate this new part of her life, and now she is feeling things she vowed never to feel. Secrets are uncovered as they grow closer and closer to one another, but will this ruin everything? I don't want to give away one of the arching plot lines in this, because I want you guys to go into this book fresh and sort of just understanding a little bit of the book. So I'm sort of going to keep my review to this very brief, because I feel like that would give away too much and I don't want to spoil it. So I can't explain how much this book teaches you. Abby Jimenez writes books, and I feel like you learn something about yourself when you're reading it, and you learn something about your priorities, your life, and things really just like come into perspective for you. And that's what I love. And I love reading a book that feels like it changes my brain chemistry. And this one did that. I just felt so strongly for these characters, and I was rooting for them so much. The development, the care between both of them, and just the subtle building of their relationship. Like, sometimes in books, you feel like they go from a 0 to 100 really quickly, but this was perfect. And the way that he cared for Vanessa and her baby was just so real. It was so real, and it just felt like I knew these people and they were real people to me, and I really love how Abby does that, and I really recommend this book. Next one that we have is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Now, I read The 7-Year Slip recently, and I loved that book so much that I picked this one up, and I decided that it was time that I needed to read it. Now, I have seen some really mixed reviews on this one. That's why I was really scared to get into it, and I went in extremely blind, and I felt like that probably didn't help me very much, because I was a bit confused at the start of the book, and I was kind of like, what's going on? But now that I sort of understand it, it's very different and very interesting. The thing I love about Ashley Poston's books are they are so unlike anything that I've read before. And this one just met that as well. Like, it was so different to anything I've ever read before. And she just does like magic realism really, really well. So this is a small town, magical realism, enemies to friends to lovers, and grumpy sunshine. So I have looked at the back of the book to see what I can tell you guys without it being a spoiler. So this is spoiler free. This is pretty much exactly what it says on the back of the book without it being too spoily. So we have Eileen. Eileen loves to get lost in a good romance book and is a sucker for a good happily ever after, the fictional kind, always. Her and her friends go on an annual book club retreat. However, all of her friends have bailed on her and she decides to go alone anyways. She needs this trip after her fiancé left her at the altar, but when her car unexpectedly breaks down on the way, she finds herself stranded in a quaint town that feels right out of her favorite book series. That's because it is. This place can't be real, and yet here she is in Eloriton, the town of her favorite romance series. However, there is one character, the grumpy bookstore owner, that she can't place in the books. Is the town's happily ever after intertwined with her own? That was not spoiling. It's on the back of the book, okay? It's on the back of the book. And if you didn't want to know that, you could have just skipped forward anyways. I loved the concept of this book, but I rated it 3.5 stars. I loved the idea of getting lost in my favorite small town. I love that. You guys know I'm a small town girly, and I just loved the idea, and I loved the way that she talked about books because I could relate to it. And I feel like a lot of you guys can relate to Eileen's character, and I just loved that idea, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I feel like that's because I went in blind, but I couldn't wrap my head around what was happening and like how it was happening. And then I felt like some moments in the book, there was a big lull, and it just didn't make me want to go, yes, I want to keep reading. I wanted to keep reading because I wanted to know what the heck was going on. That's pretty much why I kept reading. So I felt like I really wanted this to be a 4 or 5 star read, but it just wasn't it for me. I didn't feel massively connected to the male main character. I thought he was just a bit of an a-hole, if I'm being honest. But then when everything starts to be uncovered and you start to understand a lot more of like what's happening, I feel like you do feel for him a lot more. I listened to this one on audio because I found that I needed to listen to it on audio because I wasn't really wanting to flip the pages. But I feel like by the end, I was bumped up to 3.5 stars because of the plot twist and everything becoming sort of more realistic. A lot of people will relate to her, but I just couldn't rate it anything more than 3.5. My next book is Body Check by Elle Kennedy. So this is when I started my readathon, right? My 24-hour readathon. So you would have already heard a fair bit of what I thought about this one. So I'm just going to keep it to like what I rated it, what the tropes are, how I felt briefly, and then you guys can check out my 24-hour readathon because a lot of these books are in there. So we have A Hockey Romance, Enemies to Lovers, One Night Stand, He Falls First, and Hockey Hating Girl and Star Hockey Player, okay? So Hayden has spent her entire childhood being dragged around the country by her hockey coach father. Hayden intends to take some time figuring out her future, but that didn't include a one-night stand only guy she took home from a local bar. And she certainly didn't plan on him being a star hockey player. Brody didn't get the memo that this was a one-night only event. He is dedicated to his team, the team that Hayden's father owns. Hayden wants to run away from Brody. A complicated hockey star is exactly what she never wanted, but they can't stay away from each other. Now, I think this book is so underrated. I think this book is so underrated, and I don't understand why people aren't reading it more and talking about it more, because I loved it. I rated it 4.5 stars. I don't know now why I didn't rate it 5 stars, but there must have been a reason, but I can't really remember now that I'm looking back on it. But the spice in this book is unmatched, and you get it from like the first couple of chapters, and I actually really loved that. This book is very small, and it is a perfect palate cleanser. Perfect. I loved this book. I loved the subplot that you see of her father going through some difficulties. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you exactly what's happening, but you will sort of understand as the book starts, but I just don't want to be the one to spoil it for you. And I love the development of her and him and how the father plays an aspect in it. And I just love him falling first. He's infatuated with her. Like, he really likes her, like really likes her, and he's pushing for the friends with benefits thing. And you know what happens when you start doing friends with benefits, right? You know what happens. And it is just, this book is so slept on. Like, I think that this needs to be talked about more. I think that this is one of my new favorite hockey romances, and I just really loved it. I love the characters. I love the development. I loved his protective feature. I think that these two are just like perfect for each other. I think that they balance each other out really well, and I can't wait to see what you guys think about it. I also want to tell you guys that it is in third person. I usually don't like third person books, but I loved this one, and it was so easy to read and understand, and I loved it. All of the neighborhood dogs have decided to set each other off. We then have The Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate. This is the fifth book in the Salacious Players Club series. So the series follows all of the owners and partners in the Salacious Players Club, which is a schmink club, okay? If you've read some of these books, then you sort of know the premise of the club and how it works. So this is a spicy book, like it is spicy. We have Silver Fox, age gap 35 years, and it's a bit taboo. Like it's kind of taboo, I would say a little bit, like not overly taboo, but it kind of has those aspects in it. Alright, so it follows Daisy, who started working at the Salacious Players Club to uncover some secrets from her mother's past. However, she never expected to end up on the auction block ready to grant a date with the highest bidder. The club is not really her scene. She is not a materialistic woman who she's currently living in her van by choice, okay? So when Roman Kate, the richest man in the club, bids 100 grand for her time, how can she tell him no? One night when Roman discovers Daisy living in her van, he puts her over his shoulder and drags her to his house. One date turns into a trip to Paris and an offer to live with him in his penthouse. However, there is one big secret she hasn't yet told him. So I rated this 3.5 stars. The start of this book, the first 50-60% of this book was so good. I was binging it. I couldn't stop. I stayed up until like 2 a.m. to read it. But then the last 40% was more spice than plot. And you guys know how I feel about plot versus spice ratio. I kind of want it to be like 50-50, or it has to be like really, really good. I felt like this was a bit repetitive, and we have, you know, that innocent girl and this rich, spicy, schminky man. And, you know, it was enjoyable, the first half of it, but the second half, I just didn't love it. But I think you guys, you spicy girlies out here will love it, like, because it is a bit schminky and it's a bit fun, and they do it a lot, and they do it in a lot of fun places. But I feel like for me, I need a little bit more plot, and that just kind of didn't deliver. Oh look, another Laura Pavlov book. I will not apologize. I loved this series so much. This is Before the Sunset, and it is the 4th book in the Cottonwood Cove series. I pretty much binged this series this month. Like, I feel like I just binged it. So this is a small town, friends to lovers, fake dating, forced proximity, roommates. So we have Finn and Reese. They have been best friends since they were children. They've always been there for each other, and that has never changed. Reese moved away to further her career and left her fiance back in Cottonwood Cove. It is until she's due to move back home that her fiance turns into her ex-fiance, and well, he's dating a woman that she despises. Finn flies to bring her back home because she doesn't want to come home. She doesn't want to face her fiance and his new girlfriend, whatever. Finn is a famous actor, and his co-star has ruined his reputation, so he's sworn off women altogether. Finn is in need of an image makeover, and Reese is determined to show her ex-fiance that she's moved on. So why not fake date each other? It is until she moves into his house and they're forced to face their real feelings for each other. Yes, I know. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved these two characters, and I loved them together. And I really just love a childhood friends to lovers. Like, I feel like you can't beat it. I used to really despise friends to lovers books, but that's because I wasn't reading the right ones. And these are the right ones. These small town romance friends to lovers are just the shit. They are the shit, and I love them. And I loved these two. I loved the character development. I loved the aspect of friends to lovers and the line that they crossed. And it wasn't just an immediate crossing the line. It was like a build up, and you really just understood their feelings for each other and their love for each other, and how they developed as friends when they were kids. I really enjoyed Finn. I feel like he's the type of character that would do anything for anyone. He's such a sweet soul, and he's been pulled into all of this drama, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. He really doesn't. So he's got to make sure that everyone knows that he is a good guy, which he is, and he loves Reese so much. Oh, there has not been a book that I've read by her that I have not immediately loved the characters and the whole group of characters and how you see them in every single one of the books. You get a taste of them in the book before, and then you get to see how they turn up and how they, you know, build their relationship in the books after. And I love that. The next book that we have is The Wrong Heart by Jennifer Hartman. Now, this is again a book that I have never ever read the concept of before, and it is so different to anything I've ever read before. So I'm gonna try and not give away too much because I feel like the general premise is enough, and what's on the back of the book is what I'm telling you. But I'm not telling you anymore because there's lots of twists and turns that will have you actually sobbing. So this is an emotional damage book. It is very emotionally damaging. Please check the trigger warnings before you read it. That's the only thing I have to say, because this book could be triggering for some people. So we have Love After Loss, Enemies to Lovers, and Grumpy Sunshine. So those are the like only things I could really think of when putting the tropes together without giving away too much. So this one follows Melody. Melody's husband has recently passed away, and she reaches out to the recipient of her late husband's heart. There is a desperate part of her that hopes he will reply. She is searching for a connection to her husband, all the while she is attending depression group therapy and meets Parker. That is all I'm telling you about this book. I cannot spoil too much because I want you guys to go into this not really knowing what's going to happen, because I feel like that's how I did it, and I feel like that was the best way possible to do it. I rated this book 5 stars. It was an easy 5-star read for me. I couldn't put it down. I needed to know. My heart hurt so much at one point. I did have to put the book down for a second, really just put myself together and then come back to it. This is the emotional damaging book of all emotional damaging books. Like, I was sobbing so hard. I was shocked. I was just so in awe of this book. Like, it's just so different to anything I've ever read. It's so different to anything that I think is out there, and I really loved it. And I feel like that's the best thing about emotional damaging books, because they're all so different to each other. And it's not your classic romance. Like, it's not your classic cute and fluffy romance. Like, it is heartbreaking. It is heart-wrenching. It is everything that you need it to be and more. And I just fell so in love with these characters, and I just wanted the best for them. And when that plot twist hit, I was shocked. Like, I wanted to throw my book at the floor. I did not, but I need you guys to read it. It's just one of those books that I can't tell you about, but I want you to read it so we can talk about it, and finally you know what I'm trying to say. Now, the next book that I have is going to shock you all because it is so unlike every single book that I've said today, and it is Never Lie by Freda McFadden. I love a psychological thriller every once in a while. Like, I couldn't binge them and read one after another, but every once in a while I'm in the mood to try a thriller out. And this is the second thriller that I've read by Freda, and I've heard that she is the best thriller writer out there, so that's why I'm trying to like get through some of her books, and I will keep going with them. So the only trope is psychological thriller. Like, I can't think of anything else. Like, it's not really a romance book, so it's not really a tropey book. So we have Newlyweds Trisha and Ethan. They are searching for a new house, but when they visit a remote manor that once belonged to the renowned psychiatrist Dr. Adrian Hale, who vanished without a trace 4 years ago, a violent snowstorm traps them in the estate. Trisha happens upon a secret room that contains audio transcripts from every single patient she's ever interviewed. Trisha starts learning about the terrifying chain of events that led to her disappearance. Okay, that's all I'm telling you because I'm not spoiling anything in this book. And now that I'm reading it, I'm like, how did I not see that plot twist coming? But like, you will not see the plot twist coming. This book had me shook to my core. I thought I knew what was going to happen, and I had no fucking clue. I had no idea what was about to happen in this book. I was crazy for this book. And I feel like you guys really need to read it. I'm told that this is most people's favorite Freda McFadden book, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't have the pull to read it like I would with a thriller. So you know when you're reading a thriller and you cannot put it down because you must know what's going to happen next? I didn't really have that towards the start of the book. Definitely towards the end of it, I was like, oh my God, yes, what's going on? What's happening? I need to know. But I felt like it dragged on a little bit because they were setting the scene and she was foreshadowing a whole heap in this, and I didn't even realize. So I ended up rating this 4 stars because of it, because I felt like the start of it wasn't really like doing it for me, but the second half really did it, and that's why I rated it 4 stars over 3. And the plot twist, the fucking plot twist in this one, you need to read it. Like, you just have to read it. I want to know if any of you have read this book, did you know what the plot twist was going to be? Because I need to know from my Frida McFadden girlies, my thriller girlies, what you guys thought, because I was livid. I just was crazy for this ending, and I was crazy for this story, and I really loved it. And when it all sort of pieced together, my jaw was on the floor and I couldn't pick it up. The last book that I read in the month of August was Burned by Ivy Jackson. I have had this book on my bookshelf for so long, and I have wanted to read it, and I just never have. Like, I never picked it up. The cover is so cute. It is the first book in the Rescue Ranch series. This one it's a small town single dad, city girl cowboy, enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine, and workplace romance. So we have Poppy. Poppy packs up, that's like a tongue twister, Poppy packs up her life to take a job on a ranch in Montana. This is a way for her to start fresh again. However, falling for the grumpy single dad, who's also her boss, was not a part of the plan. Rhett Black is easily the most attractive man she's ever laid eyes on until he opens his mouth. This man is insufferable and the grumpiest cowboy on the ranch. But when he sees her dancing with someone else, everything changes. So we have that classic, she's dancing with someone else at the small town country pub and he's not having it, and he picks a fight with the man she's dancing with. Classic grumpy man behavior. Classic. I rated this one 3 stars. I know that's really surprising because you guys know how much I love my small town cowboy romances, but I feel like this book just didn't hit as much for me as I wanted it to. I feel like there wasn't much going on besides the plot of them, you know, not liking each other, getting together, and then falling in love. I feel like other than that, there wasn't really much else going on in there. And I feel like if there was more, it would have been a higher rating, but it's just your classic boy meets girl, boy and girl aren't getting along, they work together, she's trying to run away from her life, and he loves his ranch and his kid, and then they fall in love. That's pretty much it. Like, I felt like there wasn't much meat to the sandwich. Like, it was lettuce and mayo and onion, but there was no meat. And I feel like with small town cowboy romances, they really need to have a little bit extra in there for it to be different to its peers. Like, there are so many small town cowboy romances out there that you need to really like open up and add a little bit extra in there for it to be a memorable one. So I did love the characters and I loved their dynamic and I loved the single dad trope. But yeah, I do feel like a little bit more was needed, and that's why it was only a 3-star read for me. So guys, that is my August reading wrap up. 16 books. I can't believe you're still here. Seriously, I can't believe you're still here and that you're doing this with me, because that was a lot of books. That was a lot of listening to me just yap and yap and yap. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn post notifications on, okay? I'm watching you. I'm watching you. I want you guys to comment what your favorite read of August was. I cannot pick one. I seriously can't pick my favorite book for this month because I read some phenomenal books, and I'm so happy that I'd read such a variety and difference. And I'm also happy that that's 16 less books now on my physical TBR. I know you should all be very happy for me. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.